Hello, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hey, Bruce.
Good afternoon and evening, morning, whatever it is, Mr. Strang.
Yeah, this is on the free channel.
Is it?
It is on the free channel, which means
okay.
Which means when our guest, I'm not sure if he's aware of it, but our guest actually. Well, you know what? Come on in here, Jason. I have a question for you.
Oh, I'm here. How's it going, eh?
Beauty, eh? Kick saving a beauty.
Beauty day.
Kick saving a beauty day.
Yeah, beauty day.
Hoser.
Hoser, yeah. Beauty hoser. Canada
like
does have
Second City TV.
Yeah, Canada does have its own language. Canada does.
We
have
do.
True.
We speak Canadianese.
Canadian.
There you go.
Canuckian.
I call it the Sudbury slur. I love playing Stompin' Tom Connor's Sudbury Saturday Night for my American friends. They're like they've never.
My son thinks he's from Shawinigan though, so he talks like Jean Chrétien. my hose head son thinks he's a Canadian prime minister who beats up intruders with an Inuit statue.
Well, it is something to aspire to, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you remember what Robin Williams said? Robin Williams said Canada is like a loft apartment above a really good party.
That's right. That's right.
Down there.
Yeah, that's right. That's what he said. It's like living in a loft apartment above a really cool party, which is about right. Like as soon as you cross into Buffalo, it's like a whole different world, and yet it's literally, 1,000 feet across the river.
You know what it is? This is it. It's the bridges.
Yeah.
Almost all the bridges in Canada are concrete, and almost all the bridges in the U.S. are steel, and it looks different. That's it. There you go. It's my new theory. I'm writing a book.
No, God, that is something.
So, how are they building the new Gordie Howe Bridge? Steel or concrete?
I think they're making it out of
concrete.
Hockey sticks.
They're building it out of hockey sticks.
Big giant hockey sticks, yes.
You're aware of those sorts of things, Bruce. How's that coming, the new Gordie Howe Bridge?
They are now pushing, they're probably about, from each side, about 30 to 40 feet out over the river now.
Oh, okay.
Building the deck out. Yep. So it's coming along.
Wow. What a huge job.
So let's see. They started that how many years ago now? Like 2 years ago?
It sort of got underway right before the pandemic hit, and that slowed things down. But active construction has probably been a couple of years in a bit. So they got it's impressive. They've got a Facebook page or website. It's impressive.
So they should be finished. Let's see. Toronto's new streetcar line. They started construction of that in 2010. So I figure the Gordie Howe Bridge should be finished about 3 or 4 years before our new streetcar line opens.
Oh, likely. I think they're talking to have to pretty much have the deck done by the end of the year or beginning of next year.
There you go. Well, after 13 years of construction, they're saying that they're going to open up our new line sometime. I don't know, before 2070, I believe is the number.
It sounds like you got a loose wire. It sounds like you got a loose wire or something.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
I was drinking tea. I'm not supposed to do that?
No, it's clicking, and it was fine there when we started, wasn't it, Bruce?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
It's breaking up there
for scratchy.
Breaking up. Okay, we're gonna have to start this over.
Okay.
Hang on a second.
All right, or just unplug it. Over. Plug it in again.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah, Bruce, you and I can keep talking.
I just wonder if he's on his headset microphone or another microphone.
No,
I'm using the one you gave.
No, I think he's on his. I think he's on his headset. Okay. It was just got. I think it sounded like the wire was loose or something.
Can you hear me? I've got this. I've got the cable here.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I'm fine now.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a cup of tea, and you tell me. Hang on. Did I disappear there?
That's what it is. It's the tea.
It's the tea. Should I check my levels?
What kind of tea is it?
Yeah,
it's English tea, but it's decaf, so maybe that's the problem.
Oh, that could be.
So I started drinking. I started drinking decaf tea, but I kind of have a rule. I do that like after 6. During the day, I let myself have regular.
I wish. If I have regular tea at 9 a.m., I can't sleep.
I was going to say.
Okay,
really?
Is this good? I upped my gain. Is this good?
Yeah. Yes, the gain that helped.
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start over. I'll leave the room.
No, we're good. This is all gold.
No.
This is gold.
We're all a big family here, Jason.
Yeah, this is gold. This is quality podcasting.
Hang on. I'll come in again. Hang on.
This is gold, Jerry. This is gold.
Yeah, this is gold.
Don't worry, Jason. This will all get edited out.
Yeah, this is
the three people still listening. How's it going?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what you're paying. This is what you pay for. This is the quality. This is what wins the fans over. Is that we don't hide anything, and it's more than 3.
That's right.
It's way more than 3.
4.
At least 10. No, at least 10.
We have 10,000. Right. We have over 10,000 downloads a month. So poo on you.
Beauty.
And almost every podcast is individually downloaded like 1,000 times within 3 or 4 days when it's released. So there. So your money.
There you go. All right.
So your money is well spent.
Yeah. Hey, this is on the free channel, right, Lionel?
It is.
Should we maybe mention we have a sponsor?
Well, we're getting to that. I wanted to find out if Jason even knew that we had a sponsor.
Oh, okay.
yeah. It was Globe Models is your sponsor, right?
Yeah,
that's right. The old Globe F units. They're beauties.
Yeah, that was it.
No, our sponsor is Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
And there, we played the jingle. See, we heard the jingle. Well, have you heard?
That was a great jingle.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. I'm kind of growing. I'm starting to get. I'm becoming warmer to the second one, which is could be HO, the fast track or something, Rapido, but it's done by a fellow with a Latino accent, which I just love. I think it's hilarious.
I actually recorded another jingle. I have to send it to you, but doing that is going to interrupt my modeling time, so I got to find some time for it. Maybe when I can't sleep between 2 and 3 in the morning. We recorded the jingle here to have a third jingle for you.
All right. Well, to send it to me, just stick it on your computer.
I gotta send it to you.
Yeah, just send me the electron. Send me the electrons. And
well, I have an electron limit because they're very expensive. I keep having to change the electron holder in my camera.
Oh, you try to override the electron meter and they caught up to you finally?
Seriously, I'm telling you.
And we have to thank David Hyde from the Dallas Symphony Orchestra for helping us with our two jingles. I got to be honest.
Yes.
I got to be honest. I got to be absolutely honest. When he sent them to me, I was kind of like, I'm not sure that Jason's going to like these. So I played them for my wife, and she goes, well, what kind of guy is Jason? I said, well, he's kind of goofy like me. She said, oh, he'll be fine with it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm currently finishing season 1 of WKRP in Cincinnati, so that shows you how current I am.
Oh, there you
go. That's perfect. That's perfect. So what are
you binge watching these days? WKRP and Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, in like 4 episodes, Diane's leaving, and like there's going to be some new lady named Rebecca. I don't know what's going on.
I can beat that. Rebecca was on the game show Match Game in 1977. That's the girl that replaces her was actually a contestant on Match Game. So talk about trivia.
Oh, wow.
Talk about trivia.
There you go. That is a scene. Do you know that Canadian game shows are great because it's like in the States you have Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and in Canada you have Who Wants to Win a Toaster.
Yeah.
And we had a game show here called. Go on.
I'm going to say they were supermarket checkout, something like that.
No, we had bumper stumpers and
bumper
honestly,
stumpers. I remember that.
Like it was like for the grand prize of $120. Can you solve this?
When we were first married, we used to religiously watch every night Bowling for Dollars from Kitchener.
Oh, Bowling for Dollars.
And I mean, the grand prize. The grand prize was like $35.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get on topic. I could talk about 80s and 70s TV for the rest of the call, so don't go down that road.
We're fine because this whole podcast is sponsored by Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
I gotta say beauty every time you do that.
Yeah, you gotta say beauty. Oh, I gotta add that in.
Oh, we gotta add that in now. Mr. Shron would say beauty.
Beauty.
Well, okay. Wait, I'll count you down and then take a pause and then say beauty. So it's like standalone. Okay. 3.
It's got to be 2 beauties, but yes.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Beauty.
I'm adding.
There you go.
I'm adding that. I'm adding that in. Yeah. That's sweet. We've just created more.
It's been a worthwhile episode so far. We got some more audio out of it.
Exactly. Now the only thing is you'll get a bill for studio time.
No problem. Yeah, just have your people talk to my people.
Can I ask you a question? You want to get on topic? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you going to sell like a bazillion of these 44-tonners?
Yes.
Like you're gonna need a boat just to bring those over.
So you know what is selling in crazy numbers? We have GP9 RM and Slug set. It's one railroad, yes. Canadian National, and insane the sales for that. Insane. So that was a real gamble, but Dan Darnell didn't give me a choice. He said we're making it, and we did. So yeah, that's crazy. Much more than the 44-tonners, but I think the 44-tonners will catch up eventually.
I think,
but they're also a higher price point
than the Jeep. The what did you call it?
The GP9 RM and Slug. Yeah, it's a GP9 rebuild, cut down nose, and a Slug is a mother Slug set used like in hump yard and stuff. And yeah, I'm amazed how well that's doing. It's one railroad.
But and are you saying that the 44-tonner is a higher price point than that, or vice versa?
No, the mother slug. The mother slug is a higher price point,
right?
But because you're getting 2 sound equipped engines, right? So you can't do buy one get one free. Those days are gone. Yeah, no problem. We'll make use of our 300% margin and give you a free engine. No.
What is this? What is this mystery box thing?
Mystery box is it's an opportunity for people to get a deal on stuff in Rapido's warehouse, but the key is they just don't know what they're getting. So you order a mixture. There's like a deluxe one where you're guaranteed to get a locomotive, and then there's a regular one where you might get a locomotive, but you'll get like more than the value that you pay in product. And we'll throw random stuff in there that you could get a T-shirt, freight cars, passenger cars, accessories. A whiskey glass. You never know. Anything from our warehouse is fair game. So, but what we do guarantee is that the retail value will be a lot higher than what you pay.
And
it's
this
a way for us to
get rid of stuff.
Give bonuses. It's not get rid. It's a give a bonus to if customers have the faith in us to give them a mystery box, we're going to give them good stuff.
Oh, okay. And how did you come up with that idea?
We did it several years ago. And we just thought of doing it. I think that we had no shipments coming from China, so we wanted to make some more money. And so we thought we'd do it. And it was very successful back then. Now we're a bigger company. We got more stuff. So we thought, let's do it again because we actually have a delay. We shipped out a bunch of stuff in March and we're shipping out nothing in April. So because we've got a container on the way from the factory, so I won't be here till beginning of May. So we thought, let's fill up the gap by selling mystery boxes. And it's going well so far. Yeah.
So
we're gonna have them in stock for a long time. I mean, hopefully, the N scale ones are probably sold out by the time people listen to this, but the HO ones we should have for a while.
Okay.
Oh.
Now, when you and I talked at Springfield, we talked about we wanted to get on the air and discuss pre-orders because you said for a while you were having some extra stock, but that doesn't seem to be the way to go anymore. And you wanted to concentrate more on pre-orders again, and you wanted to discuss that a bit. Like me personally, and I have no problem saying this to you because I know you really well, and I hate pre-orders.
So do I.
Because
I hate it too. I forget the pre-order stuff. And I miss stuff. I hate it.
Yeah, and because I'm a bit older, I remember the days of walking into the hobby shop, and you could just kind of, it's a combination of the days of walking into the hobby shop are slowly disappearing, and also it's the industry has changed. So you wanted to talk about the Rapido is moving a little bit more back to pre-orders being an important function of the company.
Yeah, we had to do that. So a couple of things happened. First of all, in general, pre-orders are needed because we're not a one-size-fits-all hobby anymore, right? So if I want to make inventory on the RS11, I can't. We have like whatever it is, eight road names or something, and everyone is different. So we can't just we'll make 10, 20% inventory. That has to be divided amongst the different paint schemes, and we don't know which ones to make because we have to, if we don't know what's popular, right? So we couldn't just say and go, okay, we're going to make a few thousand RS11s and hope they'll sell. What if the Northern Pacific RS11s sell out in 5 minutes, and we're stuck with DWMP RS11 forever? Like we can't, or vice versa. It's often the oddballs that end up selling better than the major paint schemes. So there's no way to predict. So that's why we have to do pre-orders. Back in the day when every RS11 looked the same, and there are still plenty of manufacturers out there who do a generic RS11 or generic this or generic that. Then you just say, okay, I'm going to make 100 of this, 100 of that, 100 of this, and we'll just sell them out. But you can do that when all your models are the same. When every model is different, you've got minimum order quantities. I can't just make small quantities of each paint scheme because I have to actually make different body shells and different details for each paint scheme. Right, so that's what we run into in terms of pre-orders in general, why they're necessary now. We just don't know what to make otherwise.
Yeah, now with the pre-orders as well, it kind of, I'm just thinking about your 44 tonners. There's like a gazillion paint schemes on those you have out there. So obviously, I'm thinking that with the pre-orders, you can track which ones may or may not make the final cut and get produced because of the quantities aren't there.
So sometimes we'll do pre-orders where it's a conditional announcement, and we're moving more towards that way for almost all of our N-scale announcements now, because we admit to you N-scale guys, we have no idea what makes you tick, and stuff that we think you'll want, you don't, and stuff that we think you don't want, you do. So our N-scale models are almost all conditional. So we don't get enough pre-orders, we won't make them. But in 8 show, usually we're confident enough. What we'll do is if there's a paint scheme or two that's not performing, we'll tell our public and we'll say in our newsletter, these 2 or 3 paint schemes are at risk. And almost every time that encourages people to get off the fence and pre-order, because they were just saying, I was going to wait and buy this in the hobby shop, but if you're not going to make it, I'll order it now to make sure you do. And that tends to work. Obviously, we prefer that people would do it from the start. They would order pre-order in advance, but sometimes you have to give them that little push. And we're totally honest. We'll say, we're not selling this paint scheme. It's just the sales suck. And we're like, and when it gets to if there's a project that sucks, then we eventually bite the bullet and just make a smaller quantity. Our quantity we're making on the slumber coaches is a lot lower than a normal Rapido product, but we just finally had to make it because we kept on telling everybody, please order, and they didn't. So we have to accept that it was just a bum project that not enough people wanted. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be the most beautiful passenger car we've ever made, but we might get more sales from the hobby shop that way. But in general, people were not dying for a slumber coach. We made a mistake. It happens. But the reason that we're going to be really reducing our inventory is actually the same. It's kind of funny. Everyone's reducing their inventory. What happened during COVID was the hobby went berserk, and we added. I'm going to guess that we've added 25% more permanent model railroaders because of COVID. So the hobby has grown, and during COVID, a lot of stuff wasn't getting out of China. It was taking 4 or 5 months to arrive, so there was no inventory. So all the stores were desperate for stock to sell. So everyone's inventory went down to 0. Rapido's inventory went down to 3 shelves. Everyone's inventory. So we saw all the inventory sales. So then we all upped our inventory for our next orders from China. Well, by the time they arrived, pandemic's basically over, and everyone's got too much inventory now. So there's a tremendous amount of inventory floating around in our hobby. So now I know Rapido, we're cutting down our inventory like hugely. And I suspect a lot of the other manufacturers are as well, which means we're going to go from like no inventory to ton of inventory to no inventory again. But honestly, from my perspective, I'd rather have no inventory than a ton of inventory, because any dollars that are wrapped up in inventory on the shelf is not dollar that's going to new production and new tooling.
Right.
So that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Now, another question on the pre-orders, and I'm thinking specifically now the CPR D10 and the CNR version of the 10-wheeler steam locomotives. The CPR made the cut. Now, you're still tracking pre-orders. If somebody wants the CNR one, they can still ask the local hobby shop to order it, and at some point you'll say, "Whoa, we can make it and go."
Yeah. So the orders for the H6 for some reason just never took off. The D10s did. I can pull up that project number right now.
Yeah, pull that project number up.
And
well, and you know what? While you're pulling the project number up, I'm going to play a jingle.
Mosquito trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
So yeah, the H6 sales currently are less than a third of the D10 sales.
Really?
And I don't know. That's the same engine almost, right? I don't know. So the D10 is in production now. We're going to have it in stores this year, and we're hoping that when people see the D10, we'll give the H6 one more push. We'll say, all right, here's the D10. You've seen the D10. You got like 1 month to order the H6, and the H6 orders have to more than double for us to be able to make it. If they don't, we're just going to say, sorry guys, we're going to make another CP steam engine because ACN guys aren't ordering anything.
How did you figure out how much time to give people to pre-order? How did you ever figure that out?
It varies with each product. It's if the stuff's ready to make, we'll try and make it a tight pre-order period. But stores tend to need, and customers tend to need 3 months. We've got a real experiment. We just announced the CP caboose in N scale, and we told people you got 2 months to order this. We're making it in June, and we're going to see where those orders. I think the orders are going to be a little low because of that. But the factory needs something to make in June, so we got to make it in June, and we'll see what happens. Normally 3 months. This one's 2. It's not a lot of time. The orders are starting to trickle in. We'll see how it does.
That's the wide vision caboose from 72 to 81.
N scale.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, N scale wide vision caboose, and we're doing it in a bunch of American schemes for railroads that had similar cars. I know that the CSX Safety First is a very similar car, and that was very popular in HO. But I'm looking at the N scale numbers, and it's like I don't think it's people clued in yet, because all that's really selling so far is CP. Nothing else is selling, just CP.
Well, at least you only have some CP modelers in N scale.
Yeah, all the other orders combined don't equal CP at this point. So
that's
we'll
weird.
See what happens.
It's weird. Eh? Like, do you have any way of tracking? You have 5 or 6 guys now as or designers, engineers, whatever you call them, and do you have any way of tracking? Like, do you have some sort of, this had a tendency to sell really well? Like, how did you come around to deciding the 44 tonner? Because that seems to me like you're going to need a boat just for those to come over.
That was, remember, we make stuff. We talked about this before. We make stuff because guys at Rapido really want a project,
right?
That's why we make it. And usually it works. Sometimes it doesn't. We had a bunch of people wanted the slumber coach, and no one ordered it. But we have other projects that like the GM New Look bus, right? The fishbowl,
right? That
was something that Dan and I both wanted just because we love buses, and we've sold gazillions of those. We're actually doing a new run of those, so we'll be announcing a new run of those soon. So even the factory hates making buses because they're a low price point and they're so hard to decorate. They hate them. They hate making buses. So buses we always do as a filler project. So we give the factory an order for buses, and we say, if the paint shop is, because of just cycle of project, the paint shop has nothing to do, work on the buses. If the printing shop has nothing to do, work on the buses. And so buses take a lot longer than everything else because the factory just fills them in when they got time.
Oh, okay.
Because our margins on buses are much lower than on trains.
That would be like any of the vehicles. They're just not as expensive, so therefore your margins are lower.
Exactly. And it became a problem. The trailers cost us the same as a freight car. Really? We've got Fruhoff trailers. We've got Canadian trailers. They cost us the same as a freight car. So we're only making like $1 or $2 per trailer. And because people don't realize we should be charging $50 a trailer. That's what we should be charging. But people think trailer, $20. That's it. I won't pay more than $20-$30. But they are costing us almost the same as a freight car. It's in freight car packaging. The decoration is very detailed. It's all the detailed parts underneath and on the ends. It's a detailed model. And in people's minds, just like the flat car, that we've got to extend our deadline for our Canadian flat cars because people said, I'm not paying $60 for a flat car. It's like, hang on a second. This flat car costs us more than a box car. Yeah, but a box car has more stuff, so I don't mind. I'll pay $60 for a box car, but not for a flat car. We say, but the flat car is more detailed, more parts, and it costs us more money. And this is the way people think. No, it should be cheaper because it's like half the size. No, it's all die cast and etched metal. It's like it costs us a mint. So you're dealing with perceptions.
Well, yeah.
A box car is perceived greater value than a flat car, even though a flat car is more detailed and better engineered, like more difficult to engineer, and costs us more.
Which all goes to prove that model railroaders are an odd bunch.
Well, everybody's an odd bunch.
Yeah, everybody's an odd bunch nowadays. So is this stuff would you say that in like the last 5 years, your knowledge of having a manufacturing company and has grown exponentially over the last 5 years due to not just the pandemic, but the company has grown so much? Because like 5 years ago, you probably had 20 employees? So you probably have.
No, I had a lot fewer than that 5 years ago.
Yeah,
5 years ago, I think we were probably a dozen or so.
Yeah, so you've more than doubled your employee number in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So your knowledge of the industry must have grown exponentially. And what I'm getting to is, like you talk about the Fruhoff trailer and the profit margin, because they're only $29.95 to sell one of these. But have you decided, like, okay, the Fruhoff trailer is a good thing to sell because it expands our line. It makes our line look more. It gives people more of a reason to come and visit us. It's not necessarily a loss leader, but it might draw in a different crowd.
Yeah, that's important to us. And for that reason, I don't regret making the trailers. We don't make a lot of money on them, but I don't regret making them. The Caprices, I don't regret making the Caprices. But for the amount of work that we had to do to make those Caprices with licensing and approvals and all this stuff, I in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably wouldn't. It's such a small project. The amount of work that we had to go through, like every social media post has to be approved by GM. Everything. It's a lot of work, and we're happy to do it to make the model, but it's a low value item, and so we designed a couple of beautiful Ford models, but Ford won't give us a license because we're not big enough. So we've got these Ford models hanging in space. And so I don't know how many more vehicles we're going to do, just because for the same amount of work, I can make a freight car and sell twice as much dollar-wise as vehicles.
Right.
And less work because we don't have to get permission from 10 different people to put an ad together. So I don't know if we're going to do that in many more vehicles.
And all that kind of knowledge. There isn't a book that you can go get out of the library that says, okay, here's how you run model railroad manufacturing company that's doubled in size in 5 years. I mean, this is all, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants and learning as you go along.
Yes, there's a lot of flying by the seat of the pants. We're getting a little better at organizing, but there's still a lot of flying by the seat of the pants. One thing that as we become bigger, is I don't have the time anymore to design models. When Rapido started, I designed all our models. Then Bill came on board after 4 or 5 years, and then he and I designed all the models. And so it was a two-man show for design. And now we've got a whole team, and you can't run a business this size. Well, like, to be in the design mode, you have to be able to focus for several hours. You're drawing everything correctly. You're checking rivets. You're checking panel lines. You're checking everything. And I don't have that kind of time because there's another fire that has to be put out, or I'm dealing with another employee issue. Or website issue, whatever it is. So it's that's one thing I do miss. I do miss getting into the weeds on some of the product designs.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So as far as the pre-orders go, do you have any kind of a recollection of when it became a thing? Because it seems to me it kind of was like we were all happy getting our Atlas GP7s where you had to shave off the grabs and, put your, drill the holes and put your own on and put on sunshades and all that. And then somehow we got away from that, and then pre-orders became a thing. Like, do you have a sense of the timeline or roughly the time in like, was it the late 90s? Was it the early 2000s? Like, when did that become a thing where pre-orders became pretty much the only way to go?
Pre-orders became a bigger issue after the economic meltdown of 2008. We were all again stuck with inventory and realized that we got to manage this better. And so that's when pre-orders became a necessity. And Rapido at that point changed over to an all pre-order model. And other manufacturers started to do the same thing. And now that you've got a number of smaller manufacturers out there, it's not just the big names of Walthers, Atlas, Athearn, et cetera, that pre-orders becomes even more necessary because the smaller manufacturers, Rapido was for most of its life, I've been doing this 18 and a half years, but we were small for most of that time. You need the cash. Let's put it that way. An Atlas, and Athearn, or Walthers either has 80 years or 90 years of accrued capital to work off, or they're owned by a big company that, like a multi-gazillion-dollar company that can use their capital. When you're a small business, you don't have access to those kinds of resources, so you can't afford to lock up a lot of stuff in inventory.
Right. It's long and short of it. You're not General Motors, and you can't have car lots full of unsold cars because you need the cash to keep moving forward.
Exactly.
That must be, man, that must have been just, as you've gone along, that must have just been a total eye-opener you must kind of sit there some days and just kind of shake your head and go, holy moly, look where we were and where we've come to. And I mean,
I'll tell you what it is. It's a lot of anxiety. It really is. It's very stressful. The money side of things is extremely stressful. And like right now, we're waiting for the bank was supposed to get back to us 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago, to confirm our new lending facility, and they're backed up, so we haven't heard from them. And so we've got some tooling that we want to start, but I don't know what my budget is until I get the number from the bank. So there's always a constant juggling there, talking about financing. That's always a challenge. And then there's quality control problems. We talked about those before. That's always a challenge. Whenever there's a QC issue, the manufacturer dealing with it is tearing their hair out more than the upset customer is. Let's put it that way. Because when you're an upset customer, you're one person who's upset that your model's got a problem. But for the manufacturer, there could be 1,000 people or 2,000 people upset that the model has a problem. So there's a lot of stress and anxiety goes into this role. And I know it's really felt by my project managers. They feel personally responsible when something goes wrong, but they're human beings. They're going to make mistakes. It happens. I mean, we had a newsletter go out recently that had a typo in the subject line, right? And it happens. Like everyone checked it, and there were 4 people checking that newsletter, and nobody noticed an extra letter in the subject line. So these kinds of things happen. But I got Bobby who does newsletters. He can't sleep at night because of that. And I told him, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It was an extra letter. It happens. So there's a lot of when you're doing something you love and you want it to be amazing, there's a lot of stress to deal with that. Rapido actually has a counselor that we use. He's my rabbi, and he's also a professional counselor. And a lot of Rapido employees have spoken to him. We also have a business coach that we use, and a number of Rapido employees have spoken to our business coach, because to deal with those anxieties, to deal with that stress, to deal with how difficult it can be to work in this business sometimes when you want it to be so good, but something goes wrong. So I think mental health is very, very, very important. And I really encourage my employees to make use of these. We pay for the business coach, and we provide a certain amount of level of the counseling. If you have to see the counselor every week for a year, we don't have the funds to cover that. But our team does. They have these resources, and I really encourage them to talk to these people, because you want people to have a very good quality of life. You want them to feel excited to go to work in the morning, to be doing what they're doing. and it's very easy for to get bogged down by the anxiety and the stress.
Let me ask a question, and this ties nicely in your column you just had in Railroad Model Craftsman about the unfair share of abuse being heaped upon manufacturers by keyboard warriors. Right. And you stated that bothers you and your employees as well. And is that becoming more and more of a problem you're seeing?
I think it's a consistent problem. I don't think it's become more very recently, but it's certainly in a long-term trend over the last 10 years. It's gotten worse and worse. We are seeing it. I think right now I'm certainly been tuning it out, and my team is doing a better job at tuning it out, because you can really get caught up in that. I have to encourage that what ends up happening from my project manager's point of view is they get into analysis paralysis. Okay, so because they see all the criticisms online of every manufacturer, they're always afraid to approve a model for tooling, to approve a model for production. Maybe we have to fix one more little thing. I had one project manager, he's moving grab irons 0.2 millimeters. And I said, once you're moving grab irons 0.2 millimeters, the project is designed. It can be 0.2 millimeters off. That's 1 1/3 in HO scale. If the grab iron is off by 1 inch, that's okay. That's sort of, I think, the what's happened to the project designers because of all that negativity. They're afraid. They're afraid of screwing up and having the project that they spent a year working on be torn to shreds online.
We have to do something about this rage in the hobby of just beating manufacturers to death, because it as far as I'm concerned, it's starting to get out of hand. I mean, like from my own personal standpoint, never went to a psychiatrist in my life until I was diagnosed with cancer, and then because I volunteered to be a study subject, they insisted they wanted me to see a psychiatrist. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And anyways, eventually I conceded, and I completely understand why people do that. And I completely recommend it for people. But in the meantime, this rage is bizarre. I mean, they're forgetting that they're talking to people. Like, okay, if somebody produces if a particular company produces a particularly bad product, there's nothing wrong with pointing it out, but it seems like these guys are just, it doesn't matter what project you or any other manufacturer makes, they're just waiting for you to release it so they can rage about what's wrong with it, which is, it's bizarre. Yeah, it's bizarre. And
you have to focus on the fact that the E8 locomotive got its fair share of rage, one of our biggest selling locomotives ever. The PA locomotive got its good share of rage, one of our biggest selling locomotives ever. The second run of the PA and the E8 are already selling really, really well. And we just announced those recently. So like there's rage out there, but it's not affecting sales. So you have to be able to just say, you know what, these people, it's not us, it's them. It's not us, it's them. And you have to be able to move on with your life. But there's a couple of projects of ours that I've been telling the project managers, move this to tooling. Move this to tooling. I got to adjust one more thing. Oh, I found one more mistake. It's move this to tooling already.
Really? Eh? Okay. Because and then they get frozen, like you say, paralysis analysis or analysis paralysis or whatever it's called.
Right. They're afraid. Analysis paralysis. There's a lot of model railroaders who have that for their layouts. The best thing you can do when you're building a home layout is just get started. If you have to go back and rip out part of it because it sucks, then you'll go back later and rip it out because it sucks. I'm working on deck 3. I'm almost finished deck 3 on my layout for the main sort of original level scenery. And I've had to rip out I'm going to say, about 60%. As I was building it, I had to rip out probably 60% and rebuild it because when I was originally putting in a bench work, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And as I started building scenery, it's like, I actually want plywood there. I thought I didn't need any plywood. I thought everything could be screened, but no, fields are pretty flat. I need plywood. So I was ripping out finished track. It wasn't pilot, it was track all wired. And I ripped it out and put new plywood, new risers, new track, or reuse the old track, obviously. But that's, it was extra time, but I was learning. And when building a layout, the best thing you could do is stop debating and thinking about it, and just do it. Right?
Yeah,
just do it. I remember reading about someone in Model Railroader who he waited. It was Great Model Railroads, and he waited till he retired. He was planning his layout for his whole working life, and he waited till he retired, and he died 3 years later. Right, and I thought, yeah, you had 3 great years there, but you could have had 33 great years there building the layout. You didn't have to wait till you retire to build the layout, unless you have a job where you're never home, which some people do, right? But even if you're working in the military and you're moving every 2 years, you can build a shelf layout that you can cart along with you. So, don't wait. Just do it. Just build.
I actually had this conversation with Chris Adams, a close friend of Bill Schneider, and I got to meet Bill Schneider in person for the first time in Springfield. So now we got to interview him.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
But he was fun to talk to. I talked to I got a whole, by now we've heard it, the Springfield Part 4 was pretty much everybody from Rapido. I could not believe, and I was saying it to everybody, and I even said it to you then, and nobody was impressed with my observation. Well, not that they weren't, but it was 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and I'd waited all weekend, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take my little recorder now, and I'm going to mosey on over to Rapido because the show's pretty much shut down. John Sacradotti had already made the announcement. The show closes at 5. Don't be packing up yet. And so I mosey on over there. I could barely get anywhere near the booth. And everybody from Rapido, everybody's saying, well, it's because of all the models we got. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's because of all the great, the product, the quality of the product. They want to meet the people and they want to see the product. I couldn't get over the fact I couldn't get anywhere near the booth. It was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday afternoon. You must have noticed that.
Yeah, it was busy. It was very busy. That went well. That was a good show. And the Calgary show that happened in April, middle of April, that's also the biggest Calgary show ever, and the booth was packed, and I heard nothing but positive comments. It's wonderful. Dan was at the show and he says to me, it's amazing. Not a single negative comment. Everyone is having a great time.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. And that's what the hobby is supposed to be about. You go to a show, you have a good time, you chat, shoot the breeze, talk about our shared love of model trains and real trains. That's the way it should be.
And you and I had to do with Otto. You and I each had to do a between intermission piece with Otto Vondrak and his sidekick Chris Stilson.
Yes,
about the show.
Yes, I channeled my son's Shawinigan accent.
Yeah,
and that one. I was doing a Jean Chrétien play-by-play.
Yeah, and I was trying to do somewhere between Don Cherry and Brian Williamson.
My problem, though, if I'm ever interviewed, I become a mimic, right? So I have a UK company, and if I'm interviewed in the UK, I start talking like the guy interviewing me. So I start, talking it's I'll talk like this now. I'm English, right? And then when I'm talking to someone from Quebec, because I'm from Quebec originally, by the end of the conversation, we're talking like this. And one time I was talking with a buddy of mine, and he's being interviewed. He looks at me and he points to the camera and says, "You hear this guy? He talks like he's from Quebec." It's I am from Quebec. But I just, because you've got the Quebec accent, I've got the Quebec accent.
Right. And then at the end of the Quebec interview, you go, I don't know, I shoot the puck, Johnny make the dive for it, eh?
There you go. Look, I put the pepper on my plate, and I have the golf cart and the golf ball.
Here's a question. You brought up UK. How was the sales of the Titfield Thunderbolt going?
Oh, wow. Yeah, really good. Really well. The success of the UK is really down to my manager in the UK. It's a guy named Andy Hardy, and he came to he started with Rapido, and on the first day he says, "Okay, I'm contacting this company called Studio Canal. They're a $2 billion company, and we've got to get the rights for this train called the Titfield Thunderbolt, which is in their film, which is its 70th anniversary coming up." It's I've never heard of that or that. And he said, and he did it, and he pursued it, and then a competing company couldn't get the license because we had it. Tried to bring out the train anyway, and Studio Canal told them, "You bring out that train, and you're in deep doo-doo because Rapido, this little tiny company, has the license." So that was a real coup for us, and the sales are out the wazoo. So he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. and so we're very, very proud of that project and some other UK projects that have done very well. So yeah, it's cool, and it means I get to go to the UK more often for work.
There you go.
Air Canada. When you go to the UK,
yes, Air Canada. It's very good. I have to. We get out at Toronto's Pearson Airport and we run and push, and then we have to hop in real quick before it takes off.
It was a Titfield Thunderbolt part of a movie or something?
It was a movie.
Yes, the movie from 1953. It's a movie from 1953, and it's a cultural institution in England, and I'd never heard of it. Right?
Wow!
This is why Rapido is able to be successful in the UK. Is that we have a UK team filled with UK modelers who are running the UK business. I mean, Andy runs the business. I advise.
Right.
But he runs the business, and these successes are him and his team. So we're very fortunate to have that team there in the UK.
It seems to me lately you've been working on your layout a lot more in the last couple of 3-4 years. I don't know. It seems whenever that surge started, like, do you attribute that to anything?
That was COVID.
Okay.
That was 100% COVID.
Okay.
And I don't miss COVID, but I miss all the time I had to work on my layout. Let's put it that way. There were a couple of things that COVID forced us, those of us who were lucky enough to be healthy. There are things that it forced us to do is to reevaluate certain things. So my layout time became very precious to me. And it's actually how I dealt with the anxiety of the pandemic. I dealt with it by working on the layout and getting into a very meditative state. When I'm like the only guy out there who loves planting forests. I will plant a forest tree by tree, and I listen to some Bible commentary, and I get into a meditative state, and I absolutely love it. So that was very valuable. Another thing that happened over COVID is that I realized how precious my family is, both because of obviously people falling ill, but also just we were stuck together. I've got 3 kids, my wife and 3 kids. There's 5 of us in the house. Then we were able to bubble with my parents, so 7 of us. But it was like I realized how precious that is. And I used to travel a lot. I mean, there were some years that I was away from home over the course of the year, 3 or 4 months. I'd be going to China. I'd be going to England. I'd be going across the U.S. I'd be going across Canada. And I realized I don't want to travel as much anymore. And I just don't. I want to be with my family. I don't want to be apart from them for so long. And so that's changed a lot. I used to go to China 2-3 times a year. I haven't been to China in 3.5 years. We still seem to be working okay. I don't know how necessary it was for me to go to China as often as I did.
Right. And do you think you'll send in the future probably somebody else to go to China?
So Mohan, our COO, he's been going a lot. He was going a lot before the pandemic. He'll continue to go. He's going in probably in the fall. Bill's very good in China. He enjoys it. He's going to go. But I might go once a year. But yeah, I don't want to be like, I'm already going to the UK more often. And what I try and do is try and bring someone with me. Right. So, my wife is co-owner of the business and she does a lot for the company. So I'll say to her, let's turn the UK trip into a week long away from the kids. Right? And so she'll come instead of just sending me. And my daughter now is older. She's turning 16, and I need someone to help me out when I'm on my next UK trip. And she's not doing anything in the summer. I said, why don't you come and work for me while I'm in the UK? And she's like, free trip to the UK? Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So she's actually coming to work at Rapido UK for a few days.
That's cool. That's cool. Didn't you recently go to Jerusalem?
Yes. We've been planning an Israel trip to happen in 2020, and that was canceled. Then we rescheduled for 2021, and that was canceled. And so finally, we made it there at the end of 2022. And we are Jewish, we're Orthodox, we're religious. And to go to Israel was, I haven't been there in 20 years, and it was mind-bending, eye-opening, so fabulous. The kids my son and daughter are fluent in Hebrew. My youngest son is getting there. He's only in grade 5. So they were translating for us and talking, and then we learned some Arabic. We're talking to some of the Arab Israeli population, like in stores and stuff like that. And our guide he knows Arabic, so he was helping us with the Arabic. It was an amazing trip, and you learn so much about it because you don't really hear the whole story of everything going on in a place like Israel, because it's such a flashpoint. The people's emotions are very high, and so you generally only hear one side of the story. You hear the side of the hard right Jewish settler position that all the Arabs are bad, or you hear the hard left anti-Israel position where all the Israelis are bad, and you don't get any of the nuance. But when you go there and you talk to people, it's very different. You hear the nuance of the situation. Like, it's amazing what happened there with the government's trying to change the laws regarding the Supreme Court, and like 700,000 people were out in the streets protesting it. So it's a very divided country. So you can't make a statement, any generalization all about Israel, because within Israel itself, the Jewish population is divided on things, right? They say that if there's two Jewish people stuck on a desert island, they're going to have three synagogues. There's going to be one synagogue for the first Jew. There's one synagogue for the second Jew. There's a third synagogue that neither Jew will ever step foot in.
That is something. I got some questions. I got one question that I want to say. Can I ask you a stupid question? But before I say that, which a lot of my questions are anyways, but that's one of the things I've actually let me see if I can paraphrase this. One of the things I've enjoyed about the podcast and getting to know people is one of the people I've gotten to know is you, and now I've really enjoyed our relationship because you're the sponsor of the podcast, Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
And there's the jingle again. So one of the things I really admire about you is that you are very strong in your faith, but you hardly notice. And I've been fascinated. I've been wanting to talk to you about that because somehow you have managed to like it's something I enjoy. I enjoy your Jewish faith, and I enjoy your commitment to your faith, but it's very camouflaged. That's probably the wrong word, but it's not it's never been in my face. For all the time I've ever known you, I've never felt like, oh geez, when I go see Jason, he's going to want to talk to me about Judaism, that word.
Right. And so my faith is very, very important to me. Obviously, it probably defines me more than model trains and real trains, and that's probably my second most defining thing about me. But it's a very personal faith. Like I was talking about the meditation and listening to Bible classes while I was planning for us on the model railroad. It's all about helping me to understand my place in the world, what I'm doing here, why I'm here, those sorts of questions. And it's not something that I would ever want to impose on somebody else. I really, our hobby really attracts people of faith. I'm going to say it outright. It attracts people of faith. It's a very wholesome hobby. It's a very family-oriented, community-oriented hobby, and it attracts people of faith. And I find that two things. One, I don't advertise my religiosity, because when I'm talking with someone about model trains, we want to talk about trains, and we don't want to turn into a comparative religions discussion. That's one thing. But when I do talk about faith, what I find is that I find a tremendous respect and sensitivity from all the other people of faith that I encounter in this hobby. And when I sit down and talk, I've got a friend of mine who's a pastor. And he and we were working on the layout together a few years ago, and we were talking, doing the whole comparative religious things while we're working on the layout together. And there is tremendous respect, and that's something that I really like. Is when you have people of faith. I mean, a very close friend of mine is Mennonite, lives in Winnipeg. And I remember one time we were going to visit the Selk Model Railway Club, may it rest in peace. We were going to visit the club, and we're chatting in the car, and he was dealing with a lot of the same stuff I was dealing with. So my kids couldn't be in the regular hockey league because they can't play hockey on Saturdays. His daughter couldn't play in the soccer league because they had practice Sunday mornings. We have to budget for the Jewish day school. He had to budget for Christian day school. We were dealing with a lot of the same stuff. And I find that people of faith often just, we see the world in a certain way of there's more to this than we know and understand. And there's a tremendous humility to that. So I do enjoy the faith-based discussions, but I don't put it out there all the time because, I'm here to talk trains and to sell model trains.
But I feel like you make a conscious effort to be orthodox, but at the same time not shove it down anybody's throat, which I really, really admire, because there are some people in the hobby that, try to, while they're selling you a train, they're also trying to sell you the Bible.
Yeah, I received some models I ordered from somewhere. There was these cool Jesus lenticulars that came. And like, wow, this guy's giving my kids here. Hey, check this out. It's Jesus lenticular. He blesses you or something, right? It's like,
yeah.
So but no, Judaism is not a proselytizing religion. It's not a religion that believes in converting other people to Judaism. Everybody on earth, Judaism believes everyone on earth goes to the world to come. We all get there. And Jews have their path to get there. Christians have their path. Muslims have their path. Hindus have their path. Everyone has their own path to get there. Judaism very much values learning, and there are a lot of Jewish people who spend all day. They have the fortune to be able to, the luck or whatever you call it, the good fortune to be able to learn, study all day. And so we study our sages going back all the way back to Moses in the Bible. But from there, it's a continuum. There was no big gap. We're studying, like, you've got commentary on the Bible that dates from just after they finished the prophets section of the Bible was written. Okay, it's like there's a long, complete line of study. And there was one of our teachers, his name was Hillel, and he lived around, I think he was around just before the birth of Jesus, around then. And he said, someone came up to him and said, I want you to teach me all of the Bible while standing on one knee, on one leg. And he said, I can do that. He says, treat other people as you want to be treated, and everything else is commentary. And I think if you take that as your creed, treat everyone else as you want to be treated. And I find that tends to be at the core of most world religions, is just be good to your neighbor.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the core. That's the core teaching of all of it. So I try and live by that, right? Just be nice, be kind. And that
it works. It works really well, because I would say you and I are we can easily get along, but we have different personalities, but we don't, but we do. And yet we have developed a friendship over the years by, kind of slowly, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things I've absolutely, and I've been wanting to tell you this for a while now, I just really, really admire your ability to be orthodox and to not make it obvious that this is the way. It's not obvious that I have to enjoy you being, or I don't have to enjoy you being orthodox for us to be friends.
Right. I think I like when he said this is the way. I think Judaism is very much like the Mandalorian, right? Like, this is the way is what the Mandalorians say in Star Wars,
right?
And but they're saying it to other Mandalorians. They're not going to everybody on planet Squeeze Brain and saying this is the way. They're just saying it to each other. And I think that's kind of the same thing. It's like, just there was a funny story that there's a Jewish jury, an entirely Jewish jury on a criminal case. And so the judge asks for the verdict from the jury, and the foreman, after a long spiel, says, the jury has decided we shouldn't mix in. That's it. We shouldn't get involved.
Now, I have a stupid question for you. I have a really stupid question. Sure. This is classic Lionel. So you went to Jerusalem.
Yes.
to help understand your faith and blah, blah, blah. But, I turn on the news and there's constantly missiles and bombs going off all over the Middle East and in Israel and Palestine. And I'm like, weren't you concerned that you'd be standing in the wrong place at the wrong time?
So there are parts of Israel where you can go, where it's very safe, and there are parts where it's not so safe. And as tourists, we were staying in the safe parts of Israel.
Okay.
And simple as that. And I think I was at a talk by the Israeli ambassador when I lived in England. And I remember my wife and I started cheering because he mentioned Canada. And he says to me, Israel isn't blessed with being in the nicest neighborhood. Now, if we had neighbors like Canada, that would be nice. And we cheered. And he stops his talk and he looks at us and says, "Why are you cheering?" I said, "We're from Canada."
Go Leafs.
But so, no, please.
Yes.
Go Habs. Go Habs.
Oh.
But I think the friendship with Lionel has just ended.
Yes. So, okay. Now you say you have sent some of your employees, your rabbi is also a professional counselor.
He's a counselor, yeah. So he does counseling. It's not religious counseling. For me, it's religious counseling. For them,
right.
It's counseling.
And it's so when this started becoming a problem, this rage and people these keyboard warriors started becoming a problem. He just happened to be the handiest guy, and away you went, kind of thing.
He's been helpful, and I said our business coach has been helpful. But I remember, we lost an employee in 2016, Mike McGrattan. Was really key. We were a very small team back then. It was Dan, Bill, Mike, me, Janet. That was all over Rapido. And Mike died of cancer. And I remember we actually brought Robert Grissman came to the office, and we all sat around the table. We also had a couple people in warranty, and the warehouse joined us as well, like part-time guys. And we just talked, and it was so valuable being able to talk around the table. And to have someone tell us, he says, tell us what we're feeling. He's saying you're feeling shocked, you're feeling angry, you're feeling upset, and you're feeling very grateful that it wasn't you. What he says, you feel very grateful it wasn't you. And that's okay to feel that way. Right. He was telling us all these feelings that we had after he passed away, it was okay to feel that way. And having that afternoon was very, very helpful for everybody. I got to tell you, it was just really helpful.
So now, how helpful it's going to be when you have to rent a whole ship to ship these 44 tonners over.
I wish everyone would have your confidence in the.
Oh my God!
They're very small models.
Everybody I talk to, is like, I'm buying one or two. I don't need them, but I'm going to buy one or two. I don't need them because I'm going to build a little S scale layout. But it's like, they're so cool. I may end up building a little HO shelf layout just to run. Well,
that's the great thing with a 44 tonner. You could have a 1x4 foot layout, and you got room.
Absolutely, yeah. An angle nook or something like that, yeah.
And and whose idea was this? Who was the engineer? What do you call them? Engineers, project
designer. That's Bill Schneider.
Oh, really?
44 tonner is all Bill. That's all Bill.
Okay.
It's his project, start to finish.
Really?
Anything we make that the New York, Ontario, and Western operated, that's a Bill project. So the 44 tonner, that's a Bill project.
So how did he manage you got it? And how did he manage to convince you to build some undecorated ones?
Definitely with the 44 tonner, you're going to want there's a lot of private owners. And so you're going to want to do undecks. We normally with undecks, we only offer them if people specifically request a order of 6. So say we're doing a PA, and so I want an undecorated PA. We say, well, you have to order 6. You have to tell us which PA you want. We'll give you the Santa Fe PA, or we'll give you the nickel plate PA, or we'll give you the whatever PA, right? It has to be, because everyone's different. We have to know which one to make. You can't make a one-size-fits-all PA. With the 44 tonners, there's a lot of people have their freelance road or a logging company or whatever it is. And so we figure we put the on decks as a general item. I'm going to look and see how they're doing. Hang on. I'm going to.
Let's see how they're doing.
Right. Get the update as we
Holy moly. So, on decks are one of our top sellers.
There you go. We're on our way now. We're going back to undecorated. Yep. Everything's coming out undecorated from here on in.
No, but this one is. In fact, actually, I think if I look at our biggest single seller is generic industrial red. That is our biggest single seller of the 44-tonner. Yeah,
that was a great idea too. Like, was that build too, or did you guys all sit around? Like, that must have been a real barn.
Yeah, we sat around. Yeah, we had a talk to discuss what would go well. So that generic industrial red, generic industrial yellow. Yeah. Remember, we're all modelers, right? Now,
yeah.
I don't know 44-tonner.
How many 44-tonners did GE produce?
You have to look at the masterclass on our website. I haven't.
I haven't checked that out yet, but now I surely will.
We have masterclasses on our website.
Yeah, built in several variations between 1940 and 1956. More than 300 GE 44-ton locomotives were produced. The 44-tonner saw service in North America, as well as Australia, Cuba, India, France, Saudi Arabia, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay. United States Navy and Air Force owned them there. So yeah, I'm looking at the master class now. And then for further information, go to ontarioexpress.org. So now after, obviously you're only going to tell me I'm only interested in a paraphrased rate, but after
sure.
Everybody was at the big Springfield show. It seemed I got to interview Matt Gentry and Bobby Allard and Jeremy, of course, who lives around the corner from me. And one day, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show up on one of Jeremy's videos. I'm just going to walk in there with like a bag of chips and go, "What are you doing?"
That's right. Just as long as you have your clothes on, that's good.
Yeah. And so you guys had a big powwow afterwards. What kind of stuff were you talking about there that you can tell us about?
Yeah, we had a full team meeting in person, which we haven't had ever. And it was great. And we talked about, what projects we want to do, especially for second runs, because we often get excited about a new release, but we then sort of don't think much about the second run. And so talking about second runs was important because second runs, we can actually do all new models because there's new variations, new paint schemes, etc. It's not just a rerun. That was good. We talked about marketing ideas. It was a fantastic meeting us all together. And we sat in a room. We also did a lot of troubleshooting. We talked about problems with our models and how we can fix them. And we also talked about standardization for the factories and making sure that, because we have 5 different factories we work with, making sure that the packaging matches, making sure that the colors are correct, etc. That's our biggest challenge is probably colors. That's our biggest challenge. And that's we talked about that a lot, how to get our colors more standardized.
And do you think
a real challenge with colors?
I know. And do you think the color thing is more that's the nitpickers get involved? Because like I've said a couple of times to other people, like if I ordered a locomotive and it was, 2 shades off, but it ran beautiful and looked beautiful, I don't see me ever caring that it was a shade or 2 off. Is that because there's the half a dozen nitpickers out there going, the color's not exactly right? Or, I mean, that must just...
I don't know. I don't want to write off it because it's a valid concern. If you have a strong opinion about what the color should look like, you want it to match that. I think there's a debate. Certain colors, there's no consensus. We brought out our Erie PAs on the same day. Erie was the E8s, the Erie E8s. On the same day, we got an email from someone at the Historical Society telling us how incredible it was and bang on perfect, and an email from a customer saying it was the worst Erie colors he'd ever seen. It was the same day. Okay, so there are certain railroads. Erie's one, B&O is another. Where there is no agreement as to what the correct B&O colors are. There's actually 2 very divergent camps, and that's a real challenge. Like with Northern Pacific, it's easy. The Historical Society says, "Here's the paint swatch, match this. That's correct. We've decided it's done." But there's other railroads that there's a real disagreement. So you could, in this case, we kept one half of the Erie fans are happy and one half of them are not. And there's no way that we can solve that. Our challenge is when we send a color swatch and, we're checking 15 different paint schemes and one slips through the crack, and that's the one that the factory gets wrong, where it doesn't match the color swatch that we sent. And we're making FPA2U locomotives now for Canadian National. And he sends me the color sample, and I just said, no, like this yellow is totally wrong. I can't accept this, but we made it already, but you're going to have to remake it. And they did. And I'm really glad that I caught that, because if I had let that go, it was via yellow on a CN black, green, and yellow nose. Ooh. And you can't do that. So that's our biggest challenge, is when the colors don't match. And like, we got a new run of Horizon coaches coming, and it's almost impossible for us to get the matte colors to match exactly. So we're getting as close as we can to the first run, but there will be some variation. And some guys will be upset about that. But if you look at a real train, you will see color variation, but from locomotive to locomotive, from car to car. It's just the reality of it. So it's saying that modeling, people often think it should all be exactly the same, but in real life, it's not. To the point where when Bill was working for a previous manufacturer before he came to work for us 14 years ago, he was looking for L&N blue. And so he actually called the L&N shops and the former L&N shops and spoke to somebody who was responsible for painting the engines in L&N blue. And he said, I've got a debate. I've got people telling me it's two different things. What is the correct blue? He said, spit. We should go to the hardware store and get whatever blue paint we thought was nice. And that was L&N blue. So they're different depending on which locomotive you're looking at, on which year. So that's the thing.
Is there one particular?
That's like the define your shade of boxcar red. Depending where it was painted, and the recipe the head company sent out to the CP shops, for example, they're going to mix their boxcar red out of Winnipeg is going to be different than boxcar red out of somewhere else versus Montreal. That
Bill is actually
they didn't have the standards. Yeah.
The number of shades of boxcar red that Bill has the factory follow is mind-boggling. To me, it's just looks like a brownish red boxcar. No, there's so many different ones, and that's why he's an expert on this stuff, right? So he knows all the different boxcar reds. But there are a lot of different boxcar reds, and we've got a lot more boxcars coming out. A lot more transition era boxcars coming out. So you're going to see a lot more boxcar red coming from Rapido. Let's put it that way.
What about the UP boxcar? When's the final? Just say for an argument. Let's just say for argument's sake, there was a podcast that wanted to offer a Rapido boxcar, but it was painted in a particular. It came painted and lettered for a particular railroad, but without numbers on it. Would that be possible?
Absolutely. We could do any sort of custom stuff for you. What we can't do is do more UP boxcars for it's already in production. But there are. We got lots of boxcars coming. We have lots of boxcars coming. In fact, we've got we're working with a museum. I can't say yet, but maybe by the time this is broadcast, it'll be public. Working with the museum to do our Southern Pacific B70 boxcar as a custom run. You can do custom numbers. You can do custom paint schemes. There's all sorts of custom. It just depends on quantity. If you're looking for a number, you can do like 100 pieces, and that we can get you probably 2 numbers, or 120 pieces for 2 numbers. Or you can do unnumbered. We can do, if we're making them at the time and you just want unnumbered, we can do as few as 6.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of things we can do for you. Yeah. We can do custom runs for you and anybody else who's listening. But it has to be one we're making at the time. If you want us to start up the production line specifically for you, it's going to be at least 1,200 pieces. Yeah.
Well,
I would go along with production.
I like that. I was chuffed by the UP boxcar with the black ends and the black roof. I always thought that was a cool look. I think
I'll tell you,
Great Northern did that. I think too.
I was very surprised. So we did a Great Northern boxcar and a UP boxcar at the same time with the same order deadline. They're both in production now, and I got to tell you something. The UP boxcar orders are 46% higher. The GN boxcar orders are 46% higher than UP. 46% higher than UP. Now, mind-blowing how the GN guys all stepped up and said, we're there. And the UP guys are like, huh? Oh, what's this company? Rapido? What? So yeah, GN is one. That's one that's a big seller for us. Southern Pacific is a big seller for us. New Haven is obviously, we've been doing New Haven since 2009. Is a big seller.
Why
for us.
is New Haven so popular?
New Haven fans are like CN fans. They are dedicated fans, and it's such an interesting history. And there's such a variety. Like New Haven didn't order off the shelf cars; they went and made their own cars. Right? We're going to make our own passenger. We're going to make our own locomotive. Looks like nobody else's. Right? That's what New Haven did, just like CN. So New Haven has a dedicated following, and we've now, I think, probably make more New Haven models than any other manufacturer. If you look at all of our product line together, all the way from Osgood Bradley coaches, 8600 coaches, to the EP5, to the PAs. We do a lot of New Haven prototypes, like a lot of New Haven prototypes. So and the FA1s now. So yeah, it's they're dedicated, devoted.
The Great Northern boxcar comes with a silver roof. That's kind of cool too. Oh, I like
got
that.
A bunch of cool Great Northern paint.
I know, but they're in production,
which I may or may not have on order.
So order now means okay. So it's pre-order means you haven't made it, but order now means it's in production.
Order now means we've got some stock, so you can order until our stock runs out. So we make about 10%, and when the 10%'s gone, it's gone. And the great thing about freight cars, which I wasn't making, we were making locomotives and passenger cars. We made hardly any freight cars. And my team did an intervention in January 2020 after the Springfield show, and they said we have to make freight cars because we can't grow as a company unless we make freight cars. And so I said, okay, what are we making? And then they sat down and told me, these are the freight cars we're making for the next 2 or 3 years. And sure enough, we've made just about all of those freight cars. And the great about freight cars is that you could be a CN modeler, you need a GN freight car. You could be a Southern Pacific modeler, you need a Boston, the main freight car. These freight cars got all over the country in interchange service. So you don't just, it's not like a passenger train where if I'm a CN modeler, I want a CN passenger train. No, I can get freight cars from all over. In fact, I personally, every time I go to a hobby shop, I walk out with about 6 freight cars every time. I don't go every day because I can't afford that. But whenever I'm in a new town, I go to the hobby shop and I always buy like half a dozen freight cars. So if I put all my freight cars on my layout, it would probably fill every inch of track, and I'm still buying more freight cars.
What is that about the hobby? I mean, people just love to buy stuff. I mean, it's just a fun thing to do. It's like collecting stuff almost.
It gives you a good feeling.
Yeah.
Like, let's face it. You walk into a hobby shop, you see a cool model, it gives you a good feeling. And I had a Moloko box car that I got shipped from Moloko. They sent me to. Nick apologized because the packaging, the custom slip, it said model trains are duty free, right? And it was shipped from the States to Canada. And instead of just saying model trains, it had a description. So it had EL cushion car. So I got charged $12 duty for importing cushions. And then it said Rock Island, and I got charged $36 for importing rocks. Whoops. But anyway, so I pick up this Moloko car, and I just want to look at it. I've got one in my hand right now. I've got an Erie Lackawanna box car in my hand right now. And I just like to look at it, and it's like, this is really cool.
That's what
look at all this detail. Look at look at the raised lettering on the trucks, and look at the tiny pad printing, and it's the same thing with Rapido stuff. I'll pick up a Rapido model, and it's just, holy moly, this is cool. Right? So that's why we buy all this stuff, because we love it, and it makes us feel good. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's right. Before we go, we have to mention how gracious the Rapido Trains, Jason Shron and the Rapido Trains has been. Once again, they're helping me with my charity walk. And it was $5 from every well car that you sold.
That's right. Yeah, $5.
Did they sell?
So,
did they all
please
sell?
Order those.
Did they all sell out yet?
No, we're still taking orders.
I love that.
15.
Okay, let's order them now.
Yeah,
go crazy.
Yeah, so please definitely order. It is our highest selling product number.
Perfect.
Of those cars. Yeah.
Well,
so please continue to order those cars.
Princess Margaret Hospital is very, very, very thankful, and as am I, of course. And you know what I say to myself every year when I leave the hospital, I get about a half a mile. I get towards Bloor Avenue. You know what I say to myself?
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? 60 miles in 5 days. What the hell am I doing? And it's all fine and good.
But you do it.
Yeah, I do. And it's all fine and good until I get to north of Newmarket. Then it gets nasty.
The dreaded Bradford Flat.
The stretch between Newmarket and Bradford is nasty. It's like every year I get there, and it's like this year it's always nasty. Too much traffic, too much noise, too much everything. Oh yeah, and so you did a video with Burt Gummers. Michael Gross. Gross.
I like to say I had a video with Stephen Keaton.
Yeah, there you go. Michael J. Fox's TV father.
Michael Gross was a gentleman. He was professional. He was gracious. He was generous, friendly, kind. I have nothing but good things to say about this man. And honestly, he bought us breakfast. I mean, and we were grabbing a lunch at a vegetarian restaurant, and this couple comes in, and he could tell that by the glow on their faces that they were newly married. So he said, "Are you newly married?" And they said, "Yesterday." And he started talking with them. At no point did he say who he was. He didn't. And it's just like he's such a gracious man. And we had a phenomenal time. And we were standing on a mountain in the pouring rain and the cold, throwing a model train off a cliff. And at one point he was the guy holding the umbrella. Right. And I had to change costume like 3 times, right? So, and he was fabulous. So we were very, very grateful to Michael for humoring us and being so kind to us. And he was very impressed with Jeremy and Jordan, particularly. He knows that, but he was very impressed with Jeremy and Jordan, how professional they were and how enthusiastic and everything. It was a really wonderful day, and I will look back on that day fondly forever.
Can you?
And I'm hoping that more more model railroaders come out of the woodwork. Hi, I'm the president of the United States. So I'll come in your video.
Yeah, there you go. Did you tell them about the podcast? Did you mention the podcast at all?
That's all we talked about, actually. Yeah, that's all we talked about.
You got to help me. You got to help me make a connection with him, and I got to get him on the podcast. That would be fun to talk to him because he's a avid model railroader. He'd be a great guy to have on the podcast. Just to talk about
trains. He's a very, very experienced Santa Fe railroad, and he worked for the railroad.
Yeah,
when he was a youngster. So he has a wonderful article. That's the closest thing you'll find to a memoir of his. It was in Trains magazine, and he was on the Chicago Northwest. And I was urging him. I said, "You have to write. You've written a memoir, like a book. I will buy your book when you write your book." I don't think he was so interested, but it's like you got to write a book.
You know who?
I find it so fascinating, the lives of these people that
oh yeah,
they're on our television screens and they affect everybody, and I love reading those types of things.
I just got an email today actually from Kalmbach wanting me to do an article about me for some reason or other. I guess I'm thinking they sent it to the wrong place, but maybe not.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do. Can I ask you a question, Jason, and get an absolute honest answer?
Sure.
I was looking at this most recent video with Michael Gross and Jordan. Are you just a complete ham or what?
Yes. I like to say I am completely nut in the singular. So there you go.
and I had
a lot of fun. I almost fell down that mountain. You don't feel in the video how that was, but at one point I'm mic'd, he's filming me, and I'm stuck. I'm like, I got to get up this thing, and if I slip, I'm falling like 7 feet, right? And then next, like 5 minutes later, if I slip, I'm falling 12 feet. I'm almost 50 years old. I used to do this a lot when I was a kid, but I won't mend very quickly if I fall 12 feet onto a rock.
Yeah, it gets steeper and steeper. And I'm still wondering. I have one last request, and I'm just hoping that before my final days come, that this happens. That just once, when everybody's together at a Rapido meeting, somebody says, there's a pause. You're trying to just make a decision about a freight car or a locomotive or a second run, and there's a pause, and somebody goes, well, what would Lionel do now?
We already do that, Lionel. So,
do we have anything else, Bruce?
I don't think so. It's been another great time with Jason.
Yeah. And now you got to take me to that kosher restaurant in Toronto. Did he leave? Bruce?
I don't know. I hear him ticking away and nothing coming from him.
We have this happen.
Maybe maybe the mice.
I hear the ticking. I wonder if he can hear us. Well, in the meantime, you and I can enjoy ourselves.
We can do that.
It was we got right to the end, and then he was gone.
Well, that's a good time for it to die, right at the end. If there is a good time, at least we got to the end.
Yeah, because we've been talking to Jason Shron, the president of Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading from.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Did you hit the mute button?
I didn't touch anything.
Oh.
I touched nothing. It just went away.
I'm gonna send you a new headset. That one's run its course. It's time for a new headset. It's time
I will graciously accept.
Exactly. But of course, what comes with it is you have to be on the podcast. But we always have fun, and this was a fun talk because, as I have stated recently in recent months, these podcasts are nothing really but my recorded conversations. So that's why I ended up talking to you about your faith and I can never say it, Judaism.
You did a good job.
Yeah, because I'm interested. I just love the fact, like when you came to Springfield, you came on Sunday because you don't travel on Saturday, right?
Yes. Yeah, I have done a show or two on a Saturday, especially in the UK, where I stay at a hotel on the site. So I'm walking 5 minutes to get to the show, and I got to tell you, my Saturdays that's my day. That's family. That's time to sort of decompress and center myself. And I didn't like being at a show on a Saturday.
Right.
And at one point, I almost picked up a pen, which I don't use on Saturdays because it wasn't a Sabbath environment.
Right.
So now I have a big enough team that I can come on a Sunday, and I've got enough team to handle a Saturday, so it's good.
Yeah.
And I don't have that problem anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyways, I really enjoy the experience of being around you, and I enjoy the fact that you enjoy your faith. I enjoy you enjoying it. It somehow it just
thanks, Lionel.
It rubs off on me somehow.
And I enjoy you enjoying me enjoying it.
There you go.
Well, I enjoy you enjoying Lionel enjoying you enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy that Bruce enjoys that I enjoy that you enjoy that I enjoy it. Okay. All right. I'll tell you this one story. This reminds me of a story. So my son is about 24, 25. He's had his mother wrapped around his finger since he was 10. We're coming home from a Leaf game. We're driving up the highway, and we're basically having an argument. I mean, he might have been early 20s. We're having an argument about life and what's happening and whether he's going to get money for this or blah, blah, blah. And finally, I turned to him and I said, can we at least agree that I know that you know that I know that you know that you've got your mother wrapped around your little finger? Can we at least agree on And he kind of sheepishly went, yeah, okay, yeah, all right.
Yes, I'm the one wrapped around the fingers of my children.
Yeah.
My wife, she's the stern one, and I'm not.
Yeah. I've learned to come to utilize it. I actually just used it a little while ago. I was saying to Peter, oh, there's a guy up the street selling his golf cart. And I said, tell your mom that you think I should have a golf cart.
Nice.
All right, that's it.
Well, so, can you come talk to my wife and tell her I need another vintage car? Tell her that, because I'd appreciate that.
So
what do you want to buy?
Oh, I want a 70s land boat. Oh. I want like an Olds 98 or
sweet.
I don't know. something like that.
You know what you would look good in is an old Morgan. British Racing Green Morgan.
No, he's talking about some 70s.
I know what he's talking about, but
I want a 70s Lamb boat, and I want with air conditioning. Okay, I want bench seat that supposedly fits 3, but you can squeeze in 5 in a pinch. That's what I want.
Yeah, like
I want a car so big that the buses move out of my way.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a 78 Lincoln Continental, those square ones.
Oh yes. Or how about that? The Cadillac, is it the Seville that's got the bumpy rear, the trunk? Oh yeah, give me like a 1982 or Seville or something. Oh yeah, go.
Yeah.
I want plush interior. I want to sink into those seats.
Yeah, you want to pull into a parking. You want to pull into a parking lot, and you need in today's world, you need a space and a half. and the two in front of you. You need a minimum.
My wife says.
Go ahead.
My wife says you have a bus and you're in the process of buying a second bus. You do not need a vintage car. And she actually said, if you take your layout out of my garage, you can get a vintage car. And I said, no, I'm not doing that.
And of course, after I bought the golf cart, I was like, hey, for $600, I can get new wheels for it. Okay. So if you, Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Yes. Please send us emails. We like to read your emails. We do read your emails. We talk about your emails on Viewer Mail. So send us an email at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with 1 L, modelerslife@gmail.com.
And if you missed that email address, you can just scroll down on our website a little bit, and there'll be a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state. And you can just click on that picture and boom, it's automatic. Can I ask you a question, Jason?
Sure.
Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on
it? I've wanted a T-shirt with Korean short ribs on it. Can you give me that?
Now you're just being difficult.
But he does have a point. Korean short ribs are very tasty.
Yeah, that's true.
They're good.
Well, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad, you never know what you'll find there. And their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. And you go across the navigation bar and click on Other. And the drop-down menu will be AML Shop. And there's boom, you're in a wonderland of AML merchandise. Hats, hoodies, mugs, T-shirts. And in there you will find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
All right, and I recommend that you add Korean barbecue ribs to your line of T-shirts.
Okay, and what we needed now is a T-shirt that says, Bruce, what we got to make now is a T-shirt that says Modeler's Life and Rapido Trains. That's what we need now.
There you go. That's what we do.
Sounds good to me.
We can put the your fast track to model railroading fun on the back of it.
Perfect. There you go. And when you're done buying your AML merchandise at Midwest Model Railroad, you go out into the general store part, and boom, there is a ton of Rapido Trains merchandise for you to purchase. There is always some fun thing from Rapido Trains. And Bruce, this podcast, this free podcast, as with all of our free podcasts, and pretty much everything on the AML network, the AML Nation is pretty much everything is sponsored by Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
Yeah, and now we got to get the new jingle. All right, Jason.
I'll get it to you.
Okay. Now this is just.
I'll have my people contact your people.
Yeah, would you please? Yeah, get your people to contact my people. Now, we're gonna ask. This is not an episode. This is just a chit chat that is between episodes. So, are you ready?
For it.
Okay. So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
bananas.
No, think more in this is something that's like that breathes, like a person or somebody that has a vocation. Like 6 out of 10
banana splits.
6 out of 10 design engineers. Or 6
there you go.
6 out of 10 laser guys.
I have 10 banana split fabricators.
Banana split fabricators.
43.5% of model railroaders have actually been on a train.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there could be model railroaders that have actually ridden a train.
Yeah, almost half.
Let's try again. We'll try again. Because you're new at this. You've only been on the podcast 7-8 times, so we can't expect you to get it right.
Got it.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
Swedish chefs.
Edna Boyle. Me and my husband love you to come and visit us at Texan Edna Boyle's Model Railroad Emporium. This week we have Athens Gold Hustler on sale for the low price of $19.95. Right, Tex?
That's for sure, Edna.
We got over 400 square feet at the back of our double wide. We're open 3 hours a day, so bring the whole family. Bring your Aunt Dorothy and Uncle Gus. We got free parking. It's cookout weekend, so come on down to Texan Edna Boyle's Model Railroad Emporium and get a free budgie for the kiddies.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
Beautiful.
There you go.
That was